Our story. Part 19. The $100,000 miracle. Once again, we were running out of room. The building God had given us was a tremendous blessing. It was ours. We were no longer setting up and tearing down every week. We had a place to worship, teach the word, pray, baptize people, and serve the families who were coming. But the church kept growing, and with growth came a very practical problem. Space. We began to pray, Lord, how do you want us to deal with this? Someone had given us a mobile home trailer, so we parked it alongside the church. We cleaned it up, gutted the inside, and turned it into more space for children's ministry. That helped, but not for very long. Then we noticed there was a house for sale right next to the church, so we looked into it and decided to buy it. The plan was to tear down the fence, extend the parking lot, remodel the house, and use it for more children's ministry and youth ministry. So that is what we did. It took a lot of work. We bought the house, opened up the property, redid the fence, remodeled the inside, and began using it for ministry. Then something funny started happening. The neighbors watched us buy that house and fix it up. So some of them started coming to us and asking, "Do you want to buy our house next?" That was kind of them. But it also told us something. The church was starting to outgrow the neighborhood. Even with the trailer, the extra house, the expanded parking, and all the effort, we still had one major problem. The sanctuary was too small. By that time, it would not be out of line to say we had well over 1,000 adults coming on a Sunday, along with a lot of children. We had multiple services, and between services I would sometimes have to stand near the front doors and ask people to wait until the previous service cleared out, so there would be room for them to come in. I tried to be gracious about it, but it was awkward, and it was not sustainable. We knew we needed a larger building. Around that time, another church building became available. A pastor friend of mine had been excited about rebuilding a church in the area, but then he moved to Southern California. After that, the church had trouble finding another pastor and began having financial struggles. It was an Assembly of God church. That mattered because before Calvary Chapel, I had been part of the Assembly of God. So the assembly leadership knew me, and they knew what was happening with our church. They knew we were outgrowing our building and needed more space. Then they called me. They asked if I would be willing to take over that building. The offer came in two forms. If I would come back to the Assembly of God and become an Assembly of God pastor again, they would absorb the debt and give us the building. That building had well over $1 million in equity at the time, but I knew I could not do that. I loved and respected the Assembly of God, and I was thankful for that part of my background. But God had called us into the Calvary Chapel movement, and I knew that was where we were supposed to be. So there was a second option. They would still work with us on the building, but we would need to pick up the church where it was financially. That meant we would receive a building with tremendous equity and a very low payment, but we would have to come up with around $100,000 to cover the debt. There was only one problem. We did not have $100,000. We did not have $20,000. But I believed God was calling us to that building, and all through our lives, Alison and I had held on to that simple saying, where God guides, God provides. So I began to pray, Lord, if you want us to have this building, you are going to have to make a way. The first thing I did was call Pastor Chuck Smith at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. I asked him if he would be willing to loan us the $100,000. He told me he would love to, but he could not. Their money was already tied up helping another church that had borrowed money and was not able to pay it back. But he said they would pray for us. So I said, "Okay, Lord, if you want us to have this building, you will make a way." Sometime after that, I got a call from a friend in Southern California. He was on the board at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. He said, "Give me your bank account numbers." I said, "No, you give me your bank account numbers so I can get some money." He said, "No, just give me your bank account numbers." So I did. I did not know what was going on. It was not him, and it was not Pastor Chuck, but someone, anonymously, wired $100,000 into our church account. Exactly what we needed. The funny part was that the wire had my name on it personally. So I joked with the board, "Well, it looks like this money was sent to me, not the church." Of course, everyone knew I was joking. I would never have done anything like that. But in the middle of such a serious miracle, it gave us a moment to laugh. And honestly, we needed that too. To this day, I do not know who did it, but I know this. God did it. He used someone, but God was the provider. We had no way to make that happen. We had no big reserve fund. We had no wealthy plan sitting in the background. We simply had a need, a calling, and a God who knew how to provide. Once again, we watched him open the door. Where God guides, God provides. And now, after living through one miracle, we were about to step into another big moment in Salt Lake City. Because at the same time all of this was happening, we were preparing for something we called the Calvary Crusade. But that is a story for next time.